All right, so we wanted to go over a build today, Blood Mage. We want to recreate one of the previous patches S tier builds, but with the changes on the passage tree, change the Blood Mage, it has been significantly weakened, but it can still take out majority of the content, if not all of them. Uh, why a Blood Mage bleed? Because Blood Mage's bleeding magnitude is increased by elemental damage, which is something no other class can do. So this means that you can deal a lot more bleed damage in more creative ways. So with that notion, let's take a look at the skills, into the passives, into how you play the class. Looking at the skills, Life Remnants, this is one of the main drawing points of Blood Mage. Basically, you can overcap your health by 50%. I believe last patch it was 100% overcap. If I wasn't mistaken, I might be crazy, but that's how it was. Now it's just 50%. This used to be on critical hit. Now it's on any hit, so it's more accessible in the early stages of the game. But basically, we're doing Remnant Potency. The main purpose of this is you collect them slower, but you get more benefit of it. These little health blobs that drop on the floor, as you saw from the footage, they increase the HP. And we delayed it because of this two reasons. One, you see how Blood Mage spends life for its skills. It adds life cost to all the things you want to activate. So what ends up happening there is you're able to do a bunch of stuff, and then you get your life in the middle of that or at the end of it, so you get replenished back up to full. The other thing is you can go into a pack of mobs after picking up a bunch, and even if you get hit, you're fine. So that's the main draw of it. That's why we delayed it for the potency. It really does help in sticky situations. Our Harmonic Remnants, you just pick them up from further away. And Precision, since we are a dexterity-based build and we do need a little bit of accuracy, we help us there with that. Herald of Blood, this is one of the main drawing points of bleed builds. You base does physical damage. It blows up things whenever you kill enemies. Running pinpoint critical so it can crit more easily. Blind, just so enemies don't destroy you when they get close to you. Armor break and demolisher, we're going to talk about this. I understand why some people may end up using this, but I do agree that you can use this to break armor so that your Herald of Blood does more damage and stuff, or things do more damage. Like if there's elites around a bunch of mobs. But this charge gain thing I think is dog shit. I really don't think it actually does anything for you. In like realistic sense. So we have another way of gaining frenzy charges besides this. But that's Herald of Blood. Infernal Cry. I'm testing this out, so let's just ignore this for now. Pretend it's not there. But basically, Infernal Cry is 30% damage as extra fire damage. Remember, we talked about bleed magnitude increased by elemental damage. And this helps a lot with that. You gain 4 rage. Rage helps you do more damage. And then second wind, so we can keep doing it. So we're, that's the main purpose. I'm testing this out. Someone told me to try it out. Just ignore that it's not here. But it uses rage to bypass the cooldowns. But instead of using endurance charges, since we're not gaining endurance charges. But main purpose of this, like you could just have second wind or nothing on it. You don't need any support gems. The main purpose is the 30% of damage as extra fire damage. And you can keep this at a low level because you don't really need much. You just needed to do that kind of stuff. Rake. This is the main purpose of bleed builds. Rake is one of the strongest bleed, multipliers from the previous patch that got added with Amazon. So, deep cuts, you're going to start seeing that we're going to take advantage of the fact that we put multiple support gems in multiple skills, like the same ones in different skills, so that's really strong. Deep cuts, more magnitude, really good. Concoct, this allows us to increase our bleeding magnitude by using our life flask, really good. Ambrosia, you can gain 3% damage, extra lightning damage per mana flash charge consumed. This is really strong because we talked about the bleeding magnitude increased by elemental damage. So anything with more elemental damage or extra elemental damage, it's going to help greatly. Momentum. So when you lunge forward, you can deal 40% more damage. So how bleed basically works is the initial hit has to be really big. And once that hit goes, the bleed damage is based on that hit. So when you're adding more damage to that hit, it's going to do more bleed damage. And in concentrated area, we don't need to hit multiple units. Rake is mainly there for boss fights or elites. So that's why we use concentrated area. So you apply the bleed and you're good to go. Blood Hunt. So Blood Hunt is how you deal lots of damage to bosses. So we're using pinpoint critical, so we have a higher chance of critting. Momentum, since you have to lunge forward to them, right? Blood Hunt will lunge forward to them. That's going to be really strong because you're going to get extra damage from that lunge. Rapid attack, so we just attack really quick. Inevitable critical, so we can get that 100% crit. If your crit rate is high enough, you don't need this, but I don't have a crit rate high enough, so I use this, and this is like one big attack. So you're not using it constantly, so you're taking advantage, so you always crit on that. And to make up for pinpoint critical, we put super critical there. And it's kind of like balancing each other out a little bit to where we have 100% critical hit chance on this attack specifically, and some crit damage is really good. So that's Blood Hunt. So Rake and Blood Hunt are mainly there to kill elites. You're going to see that later with the Zest fight. Lightning Spare, this is your main clearing, skill ability. You got Bleed on it, because Lightning Spare does not innately bleed, so you want to put Bleed on it so that it does happen. Then you got Deep Cuts again, so you increase the magnitude. Elemental Armament for 25% more elemental damage. This is going to help greatly with Bleed magnitude. Rapid Attack, so you just launch it really quick. And then Ambush, this is your main mob clearing skill, so mobs are on full HP before you attack them. So this helps you always crit to activate your abilities. That's basically the main point of Ambush. You use it on mobs. It doesn't really work that well on bosses, so I would just ignore it. That is there for Lightning Spare. So Disengage we use for a couple of reasons. What Disengage does is it lets us move backward so that we can then hit them with that Blood Hunt. Or hit them with that Rake. But mainly you're using it for Blood Hunt. So you shock ground, you disengage into Blood Hunt, and that triggers the momentum ability, and you can kill things pretty easily that way. Shocking Leap, adds a shocking ground. So basically, when the enemies are shocked, they take, like 20% increased damage. So that just helps more with different abilities we have here. Holy Descent is just to recover HP when you leap backwards. Sometimes you're escaping, you can leap backwards and launch a bunch of lightning spares against mobs. So Holy Descent helps a little bit there. It doesn't really recover that much HP, but, we're trying it out. Pinpoint critical, so the only way that Shocking Leap creates a shocking ground is it has to critically hit. So we have Pinpoint critical to help with that. Now, here's where I believe is the real way to gain charges for your Lightning Spare. Sniper's Mark, right? Limit 1 mark per target, and when you kill the enemy, it increases the critical hit damage against the enemy, but when you kill it, you can get a frenzy charge. And as you can see, our Lightning Spare, when you spend this frenzy charge, it splits towards 3 different targets when consuming a frenzy charge. So that's really strong. It lets you clear ways really quickly. So that's why we charge Profusion, so that 30% chance we can get an additional charge. And then cooldown recovery, so that it comes back faster. Second wind, so we have 2 of them. And overabundance, so that we can put 2 marks, on enemies. So what this lets us do is, if we can target 2 mobs with them and hit them, we get, 2 to 4 frenzy charges, which is going to be really strong. You don't really need overabundance. I'm testing out, and it seems to work fairly well. Trinity. 4% more elemental damage per 30 resonance. This just helps dealing more bleed damage overall. And we're using Fire Mastery to increase its level. Elemental Conflux. It increases the damage you deal. Elemental damage by the affected element. So like you can see right here, it does fire. Or now it's ice. It's like this little ring on my back. You'll see it'll change. Now it's changed to fire. And one thing to note, especially when it changes to fire, what you can do when it changes to fire is you can launch your Infernal Cry so it can do more damage when you're doing skills. But this, I know it's random, but trust me, it's going to work when you look at the gear. you're just going to completely annihilate enemies and bleed enemies no matter what. Obviously, you'll do the most damage when you're on lightning because of lightning spear and, of course, of ambrosia on Rake over here. But that is it for skills. Let's take a look at the passive tree. All right, so looking at the passive tree here, talking about the Blood Mage abilities, in order, you want to come down here and grab this one right here. This is going to help greatly. Blood Barbs in elemental damage contributes to bleed magnitude. That's the reason why you're playing a bleed build on a Blood Mage. It's really cool. Then you're going to come and cycle down here for your next, this side here. Grasping Wounds, since we don't run any defenses in terms of energy shield, armor, and evasion that well, we are using life, so this helps us tank a first hit so we don't just die. And then this Crimson Power helps us greatly. It gives us more life when we equip a massive energy shield chest piece or body armor. As for the rest of the passive tree, there's going to be mobilities linked down below, but to explain, we max out on crit damage and crit rate so that we have a lot of damage to go there. And then we come down here. The key notions here is to come down here to get this. The aggravate bleed, is really good. And then the bleeding magnitude is really good. So all of that helps there. Then we come over here to grab wasting and fast acting toxin. So the bleed does damage faster. And then it increases the damage of the bleed right here. These fist-looking nodes, maiming, strike, and stuff, they help you deal more damage. One of the big key factors here is like this. 50% critical chance against full-life enemies and 80% chance damage against full-life enemies. This allows us to kill bosses really quick, right? The Rake will get this. That's why we don't want to use Disengage first. We Rake, and then we let it bleed tick down, and then you can beat them up in the meantime, then Disengage, and then go in for a blood hunt to finish them off. And Killer Instincts increases damage. We're generally always on full life, but in case we're about to die, we get the, extra 20%. And that is it for, like, anything noteworthy. Other than that, you just get, like, jewel slots. Like, I came down here just to pick up this jewel slot and stuff like that. So there's nothing really, like, insane 900 IQ with the passive tree going on here. Now, let's take a look at the armor, because here's where things get interesting. So, the only required unique for this entire setup to work is Tangle Tongue. It has the highest crit rate. You don't care about the damage on it, because you're dealing damage through bleed, so you're fine. Right here, your rings must have fire, cold, lightning on each one. If not, they at least need one of those. And this is what we talked about that's going to help with the elemental conflux in Trinity. So that helps us there, right? Like, that's going to increase the damage of these, fire, cold, and lightning. So that's going to help a lot. Your chest piece, like I mentioned, has to be high energy shield. That's how you get the extra life. Outside of that, talking about more endgame stuff, you want eventually Ingenuity. That's going to increase the damage you deal with these on the sides. The more fire, cold, lightning, that stacks up. And then eventually one Sacred Flame Scepter. You get this from Arbiter. Right now they're really cheap on the market if you're in Trade League. And this lets us enemies in your presence resist elemental damage based on their lowest resistance, so that we have the maximum of damage going through. And that is it for armor. I'm purposely look at my armor. They're not really that great. Like, I don't even have chaos resistance. They're still like level 62 armor, even though I'm level 84. I wanted to prove that this build still works with unoptimized armor. To showcase a little bit here, like, we're gonna run into these pack of mobs. How you want to play it, right, is you come over here, you drop your mark, and you attack them. And you get the frenzy charge right there. And then you can just do that twice. And you can see right here, you can even spam. If you really want to, you can spam it. And you don't have to chain it that much with the frenzy charges if you're really that lazy. And you see our health's overcapping. We're at 3,700 HP. But you can see it clears the screen really, really well. And it may not be as broken as it was before, but it definitely can just completely annihilate. And this is a tier 15 map. So yeah, that's kind of like how it is. At the end of the video, you're going to see a breach, how I get through breach and fight Zest. And once I improve it more, it's going to be really good. But yeah, that's the Blood Mage build. Oh, the one thing I do want to note that I think I forgot to tell you guys is this right here, Armor Break and Demolisher. You're probably going to see random guys with it, and you're trying to like figure out what the crap it's for. It's because they're taking this passive tree over here, Resonance. So you're going to gain endurance, sorry, not endurance charges. You're going to gain power charges, and it's going to be, endurance charges, and you're going to become frenzy charges. But the problem I have with that, right, and why I feel it's kind of cringe, is because it's only a 20% chance to gain it. And it's only when you break the armor. So where this is like only good in is like Abyss, whether you're getting swarmed and you're breaking armor because there's a bunch of dudes just getting like beaten up there in Abyss. And that's when it's good. But I feel like it's more proactive at the lower levels to just be like, okay, apply Hunter's Mark. It's dead. And now I have the frenzy chargers. And then now I have all that chain going on right there, right? And I feel like that's just so much better in my honest opinion. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm the Gacha Game Cultivator, and we'll catch you guys on another Pack of Exile video.